Clint Eastwood rode into the frontier town of Silver Ridge just as the sun dipped low, painting the vast, open plains with strokes of gold and crimson. The dusty road stretched out before him, a silent promise of days long past and future regrets yet to be made. In his weathered eyes lay the memory of countless gunfights, lost loves, and endless nights under a merciless sky, a life hardened by struggle and defined by moments of fleeting redemption. Silver Ridge was a town clinging to the last vestiges of hope amid a harsh, unforgiving wilderness. Wooden sidewalks creaked underfoot, and faded signs swung lazily in the arid breeze. The townsfolk, tough, weather-beaten souls, went about their daily lives with cautious optimism, each harboring their own secrets and scars. Clint, known in hushed tones as the man with no remorse, carried with him not only his legendary past, but also an unspoken desire to make amends for the choices that had long haunted him. As he rode slowly into town on his trusted horse, Dusty, Clint's presence turned heads. Whispers followed him like shadows, and the weight of expectation was palpable. He dismounted in front of the Silver Spur Saloon, a weathered building whose swinging doors had witnessed more stories than most men could tell, and paused for a moment. The wooden steps creaked beneath his boots as he ascended into the dimly lit interior. Inside, the saloon buzzed with low conversation, the clink of glasses, and the soft twang of a guitar played by a tired troubadour in the corner. Clint's arrival brought a sudden hush. Even the old piano seemed to pause in anticipation. With measured steps, he made his way to an empty stool at the far end of the bar. Hank, the burly bartender whose gruff exterior masked a compassionate heart, offered him a nod of acknowledgement and slid a glass of whiskey across the counter. Clint accepted the drink, his hand steady despite the inner storms that raged within him. He took a slow, deliberate sip, each drop evoking memories of a time when he believed in honor and justice above all else. In those days, he had been a man driven by an unyielding code, a code that over the years had left him isolated and burdened by regret. Tonight, as the last light of day faded from the horizon, he sought not vengeance or glory, but a quiet redemption he had long thought unattainable. The murmur of conversation resumed, and for a while, Clint sat in silent contemplation. It wasn't long before the saloon's door creaked open again, drawing his attention. A young woman, no older than 25, stepped hesitantly inside. Her eyes, wide with a mixture of hope and fear, scanned the room until they fell upon him. She wore a faded dress and a weary expression that spoke of hard days and long nights on the trail. In that moment, Clint recognized something in her, a reflection of his own battered soul. "Mr. Eastwood?" She ventured softly, her voice trembling. I've heard stories about you. They say you once saved this town, and maybe even more. I need your help." The saloon fell silent once again. Clint set down his glass and regarded her carefully, the lines of his face deepening with a mixture of sorrow and determination. "Sit down, miss," he said in his low, gravelly tone. "Tell me what troubles you." Her name was Lila, she explained, and she carried the burden of a failing homestead on the edge of town. A small ranch that had once thrived, but was now on the brink of ruin due to a prolonged drought and mounting debts. Lila's eyes shimmered with unshed tears as she recounted the struggles of her family, the loss of livestock, and the whispers of foreclosure that haunted her every step. "They say you've been a man of action in days past," she added, her voice barely above a whisper. "And I believe you still have the heart to fight for those who have nothing left." Clint's gaze softened as he listened. In Lila's desperate plea, he heard echoes of his own past, a time when he had fought against injustice and stood up for those who had been trampled by fate. The years had tempered him, but beneath the hardened exterior, the heart of a protector still beat. "I'll help you," he said quietly, surprising even himself with the resolve in his voice. "But understand, the road ahead won't be easy." Over the next few days, Clint became an unlikely pillar in Silver Ridge. He worked alongside Lila, using his hard-earned reputation and practical skills to rally the townsfolk. Together, They organized water-sharing efforts, negotiated with local lenders, and repaired the long-neglected irrigation system that had once nourished the land. In the sweltering heat of the day, Clint's presence was a calming force, a reminder that redemption was possible even in the bleakest of circumstances. Each evening, as dusk draped the town in soft hues of orange and purple, Clint and Lila would sit on the creaking porch of the restored ranch house, watching the stars emerge one by one. In those quiet moments, he shared stories of his past, of gunfights fought in self-defense, of mistakes that had cost him dearly, and of the long, arduous journey toward forgiveness, both from others and from himself. Lila listened with rapt attention, her eyes reflecting both sorrow and hope. In the retelling of his tales, Clint found a catharsis, a slow healing of old wounds that had once seemed insurmountable. As word spread of Clint's efforts, Silver Ridge began to change. Neighbors who had long been isolated by mistrust and hardship started to come together. They formed small groups to help one another, pooling resources and sharing skills. The once forlorn town square became a meeting place for impromptu gatherings, where laughter and conversation replaced the silence of despair. Even Hank, the stoic bartender, found a renewed sense of purpose as he organized community events at the saloon, turning it into a hub of camaraderie and hope. Yet, the road to renewal was not without obstacles. One sweltering afternoon, as dark clouds gathered ominously over the parched land, a group of hired mercenaries rode into Silver Ridge. They were sent by a powerful landowner who had grown envious of the town's newfound spirit and who sought to claim the revitalized irrigation system for his own profit. Their leader, a cold-eyed man known only as Crow, demanded that the townsfolk surrender the system or face dire consequences. Tension filled the air as the mercenaries encircled the town square, their horses snorting and hooves kicking up clouds of dust. Clint stepped forward, his eyes locked on Crow. The silence was deafening as two hardened souls faced off under the heavy sky. "You have no claim here," Clint said steadily, his voice cutting through the tension like a well-honed blade. "This land belongs to the people of Silver Ridge, and we will defend it with everything we have." Crow sneered, drawing his revolver with a flourish that belied his menace. "Then you'll have to take it from us," he retorted, his tone dripping with contempt. What followed was a clash that seemed to stretch the limits of time itself, a brutal, desperate struggle on the sun-baked streets of Silver Ridge. Clint moved with the efficiency of a man who had long been a master of his craft, his every movement a blend of precision and raw power. Bullets whizzed past as he exchanged blows with Crow, the two adversaries locked in a battle that was as much about honor as it was survival. The townsfolk rallied around Clint, their courage emboldened by his unwavering resolve. In the midst of the chaos, Lila appeared at his side, her face set in fierce determination. With the help of neighbors, she led a countercharge that eventually overwhelmed the mercenaries. Crow, realizing that his greed had incited a spirit he could not break, retreated into the gathering storm. As the dust settled and the wounded were tended to, Silver Ridge stood united, a community reborn through struggle and bound by the unyielding will of a man who had once been a solitary wanderer. That night, as calm returned to the town, Clint sat on the steps of the saloon, his head bowed in quiet reflection. The adrenaline of battle had faded, leaving behind a deep, resonant ache, a reminder of both the cost of conflict and the price of redemption. Lila joined him, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. "You saved us," she said softly, "not just with your strength, but by believing in us when we had lost hope." Clint's eyes, dark and contemplative, met hers. "I've spent too many years fighting my own demons," he admitted. "I thought I was beyond saving. But maybe by helping you, by helping all of you, I can start to make amends for the past." In the weeks and months that followed, Silver Ridge transformed further. The town's irrigation system was restored to full operation, and the harvest that year exceeded all expectations. A sense of optimism pervaded the community, and Clint found himself drawn into local affairs, offering guidance, settling disputes, and mentoring young men and women who saw in him a symbol of resilience. The legendary gunslinger had become a reluctant hero, his journey of redemption intertwined with the rebirth of a town that had long been resigned to despair. One crisp autumn evening, as the leaves turned brilliant shades of amber and gold, a celebration was held in the town square. Lanterns hung from every available surface, and a gentle melody played on a fiddle echoed under the vast, starry sky. Townsfolk gathered in a circle, their faces lit with joy and gratitude, to honor the spirit of unity that had emerged from their struggles. Clint, standing at the center, listened to heartfelt speeches and watched as children danced around a bonfire. For the first time in decades, he felt the warmth of forgiveness and the promise of a future unburdened by the ghosts of his past. As the celebration drew to a close, Clint stepped away from the merriment and walked along the outskirts of town. He paused at a quiet overlook, gazing out over the fields that had once known only drought and despair. The gentle breeze carried with it the distant sounds of laughter and life, a stark contrast to the lonely trails he had once trodden alone. In that moment, under a sky awash with starlight, Clint allowed himself a rare smile. Redemption, he realized, was not a destination but a continuous journey, a series of small, brave steps toward healing and hope. With the promise of a new dawn and the echoes of a town reborn in his heart, Clint Eastwood mounted Dusty once again. He rode away from Silver Ridge that night with the knowledge that his past would always be a part of him, but it no longer defined his future. In the rearview mirror, the lights of the town faded into the darkness, replaced by the endless expanse of open road and possibility. And so, as the horizon beckoned with the soft glow of morning, Clint continued his journey, forever a wanderer, forever a seeker of redemption, and forever a reminder that even the most scarred soul can find solace in the gentle embrace of hope. If this tale stirs something within you, remember, redemption lies not in erasing the past, but in embracing it, learning from it, and forging ahead into the light of tomorrow. Oh, 3 Mini High.